Chapter 386. But you can't lie to me, Anne. He stared at Luo Qingtong. Let go of me. He wanted to return to his original body and let him catch this woman quickly, lest she ran away again. That won't do. Don't think that I don't know that the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood has the effect of binding the soul. You are actually disconnected from your original body here. Even that ring is disconnected from the other side, right? Luo Qingtong said and kissed him on the lips with a smile. So, I don't want to let you go. If she let him go and he returned to his original body, wouldn't she be in big trouble? She wouldn't do such a stupid thing. And she really liked to keep this man by her side, even if it was just a wisp of his soul. You. Little Ming Zun looked at Luo Qingtong angrily. At the same time, in the black field, when that wisp of soul was sucked into the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood by Luo Qingtong, the man in the medicinal pool suddenly opened his eyes. Luo Qi. The blue veins on Yi Qianqian's forehead throbbed. He could feel that the connection between his wisp of soul and his mind was completely disconnected. What did that woman do? Yi Qianxian could vaguely know what happened over there, but it wasn't clear. He only knew that the wisp of soul caught up with Luo Qingtong's situation and solved the crisis. It was just that he had no idea what had happened and what had been said over there. Now, the connection between his wisp of soul and his mind was disconnected, so he didn't know anything. That woman. Yi Qianming's face was dark. Needless to say, that woman must have done something to make him lose the connection with his wisp of soul and mind. That woman had deliberately schemed to prevent him from finding her. Yi Qianxian thought for a while and gritted his teeth. Those who liked him in the past, who didn't want to get close to him. But this woman ran faster than a rabbit. She hid better than a gopher. Yi Qianxian took a deep breath and was about to get up. At this moment, he felt a real and soft touch on his lips and face. Yi Qianxian was only halfway up when he suddenly froze. His split soul and mind were connected to his main body. Even though he had lost contact with his main body, he could still sense the other party's situation. Her lips felt like they had been kissed by someone. That woman, humph. You don't mean what you say, and you're so cunning. For some reason, Yi Qianxian was suddenly in a good mood. The corners of his lips curled up, but then he suppressed it. Let's see how long she can hide. Yi Qianxian suddenly remembered that the wisp of Saint Realm aura he had just sensed seemed to have something to do with the Dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. Thinking of this, he narrowed his eyes and got up, ready to go to the Sacred Academy of the Empire of Qin. At this moment, a message from Beiqing's wind feather arrived. Master, the evil doctor attacked in the Empire of Tianyu and destroyed the Fei family of the Empress of Tianyu. Beiqing and Wind Feather had been searching for Luo Qingtong's whereabouts during this time. However, the latter had made a bunch of replicas of the 9 Phoenix Ring. Even if they searched according to the location given by Yi Qianming, it would take a long time. At this moment, they received the news that the evil Dr. Ghost Eye had appeared in the Empire of Tianyu. After confirming that it was the evil doctor who attacked, they hurriedly sent the news to Yi Qianming. The Fei family. Yi Qianming looked at the message in his hand and narrowed his eyes. Immediately send someone to investigate everything the Fei family has done during this time and send a report to me. In addition, his voice was cold, warn the royal family of the Empire of Tianyu that they are not allowed to touch that woman. His woman, even if she was a little disobedient and unruly, he would teach her a lesson. No one could touch her. Chapter 387. At the Luo family in Dongli country. Luo Qingtong was looking at the angry little Ming Zun in her arms with a smile. Be good, don't be angry. Her eyes were curved, and she kissed Yi Qianming's face while speaking. What do you want to do? Little Ming Zun was a little angry because of her kiss. He looked at Luo Qingtong angrily, and his cheeks were puffed up because of anger. This woman, he asked her to go back with him, but she didn't go back and kept molesting him. She liked him so much, so why didn't she go back with him? I want you. Luo Qingtong looked at him with a smile. She liked to see the angry and helpless look on the man's face, especially little Mingzun, who was really cute. Why? Can't I? She raised her eyebrows. In front of the harmless little Mingzun, Luo Qingtong's evil and presumptuous character was revealed. This woman was so straightforward with her words. She wasn't reserved at all. Although little Mingzun thought so, he couldn't suppress the joy in his eyes. Then you go back with me. When we go back, I'll allow you to have whatever you want. Yi Qianming said, and looked at her with his burning eyes. If his original body was here, his gaze would be as fiery as it could be, as scorching as it could be. But now, Luo Qingtong looked at his bright and sparkling eyes. She was so adorable that she couldn't feel the burning passion in them. No. She almost nodded and agreed, but Luo Qingtong came back to her senses and quickly refused. She patted her chest with lingering fear. She never reneged on a debt, and she would do what she promised. She almost got herself into trouble just now. This man's current appearance was too deceptive. Fortunately, she had been vigilant. This was also the habit of being hunted down in her previous life. Don't try to trick me. She pinched little Mingzun's cheek. I won't go back with you. Why? The joy in his heart disappeared instantly, and little Mingzun looked at Luo Qingtong angrily. He didn't know why she was so stubborn. What's wrong with going back with me? Many people wanted his protection, but this woman didn't want it. Luo Qingtong looked at him strangely. Why did he ask her why? He wanted to catch her. She wouldn't go back with him unless there was a hole in her brain. As expected, the thoughts of a superior were only about whether he wanted it or not whether others were willing or not. So, Luo Qingtong in her previous life, so she could understand Yi Qianming's idea. However, understanding was one thing. It was absolutely impossible for her to go back with him. Then let me ask you, what will you do if you catch me? Of course I will punish you severely. Yi Qianming said without hesitation. Make sure. Ming's he wanted. Damn it. This man was so cruel. Fortunately, she wasn't caught up. Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianming with a gloomy face, but she didn't know that the punishment the man said was completely different from what she thought. Okay. She pinched little Mingzun's cheek. Don't think about how to punish me. Stay here obediently. I won't give you this chance. By the way, do you feel uncomfortable staying in the heart of the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood? Luo Qingtong didn't have the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood to imprison her soul before. The power of the soul was turned into power by her. Chapter 388. I'm extremely powerful. What's there to be uncomfortable about? Yi Qianming snorted coldly with an indescribable arrogance. Besides, will you let me go if I'm not feeling well? Yi Qianming was very unhappy. He vaguely realized that what he said just now seemed to be wrong. But this woman deserved a lesson. She had been hiding from him and lying to him. Couldn't he punish her when he caught her? If it had been anyone else, he would have killed them long ago, all right? He was so tolerant of this woman, but she didn't appreciate it. Thinking of this, he was a little angry. Woman, don't be arrogant. He said angrily. Why was she arrogant because of his favor? Luo Qingtong looked at him and couldn't help but twitch her lips. She was wronged. What was this person thinking? Why was he so angry? Didn't she just ask him if he was feeling uncomfortable? Was that wrong? But thinking that he was imprisoned by her, it was normal for him to be a little angry. What's more, this man had always been high and mighty. If it were her, if someone dared to imprison her, even if it was just a wisp of soul, she would explode in a minute. Thinking of this, she suddenly said very gently, "Okay, okay, okay. I'm arrogant because of your favor, okay? Be good, do you feel uncomfortable?" Her attitude was good. Although Yi Qianxian was depressed, he couldn't lose his temper with her. He immediately snorted and said, "No." He was powerful. Even if it was only the power of one soul, it was incomparably tyrannical. How could he feel uncomfortable? It was just that he was not used to being trapped in the heart of this 1,000-year soul-guiding tree. His face was sullen. Luo Qingtong didn't care. Instead, she felt that this man was very cute. To be honest, she had seen the cold Yi Qianxian, the angry Yi Qianxian, and the charming Yi Qianxian, but she had never seen such a cute lord. The lord who had turned into a little baby was really cute. Even when she was angry, she still looked so cute and proud. "Okay, don't be angry. Come, eat this." Luo Qingtong smiled and handed him a pill. This was the Yin Soul pill. It was refined by Luo Qingtong when she was refining the Yuan increasing pill and the comprehension spirit pill. However, she had purposely suppressed the retention rate of the medicinal power, so it did not attract the pill lightning. Luo Qingtong was originally going to refine it for Chu Lingfeng's mother. Although Luo Qingtong had sealed her soul back, she was still severely injured and couldn't wake up for a long time. She needed a long time to recuperate. As for the Yin Soul pill, it was used to strengthen the power of the soul. It was just the right time to give it to Yi Qianxian so that his soul wouldn't be damaged from being trapped in the heart of the 1,000-year-old soul-guiding tree. Luo Qingtong just didn't want Yi Qianxian to find her and the Luo family. She didn't want him to be hurt because of her actions. Yi Qianming looked at Luo Qingtong's smiling face and inexplicably couldn't get angry. He had always liked Luo Qingtong. He liked her so much that he didn't care about his identity as the underworld senior and his high status. He was willing to stay by her side, even if it was just a wisp of his soul. It was just that this woman had to use tricks to prevent him from knowing her true identity. Otherwise, why would he be so angry? Thinking of this, little underworld senior angrily swallowed the pill in his arms. Chapter 389. Is this a pill? He looked at Luo Qingtong. "You know how to refine pills?" "Amen. I just learned it not too long ago," Luo Qingtong said. If people were to find out that her so-called "not too long ago" was actually something that happened a few days ago, who knows how many people's jaws would drop. Pervert. A huge pervert. Amen. Yi Qianxian nodded. "Don't casually reveal that you know how to refine pills. Everything you do is under the name of evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Don't let anyone know your identity. Others may not know the true meaning of a pill master, but Yi Qianxian was very clear about it." At this time, he finally understood why Luo Qingtong was hiding her identity. In the past, he was very angry at this woman for being so cunning. But now, it seems that if it wasn't so, with this woman's various abilities, she would have already become the target of all the forces fighting over her. Who knows what kind of things would have happened to her. Even if it was him, if he didn't like this woman, he was afraid that he would treat her as a bargaining chip. Thinking about it, he wasn't so angry at Luo Qingtong for hiding from him. "Don't be afraid, this sovereign will protect you." He looked at Luo Qingtong and said seriously. "In the future, if you want to sell anything, just take it to the black field. No one will dare to do anything to you. His people definitely won't be bullied by others." Amen. Luo Qingtong looked at him and blinked her eyes. This was already the second time this man had said something like this. Protect her. Last time, she could still think that he was lying to her and wanted to get away. Could it be the same this time? But why did she have an inexplicable urge to believe him? This feeling of being protected by someone, of having someone to rely on. It's so special. Luo Qingtong clutched her chest, inexplicably feeling that her heart was beating a little faster. She looked at the serious yet still cute little baby in front of her and couldn't help but lean over and give him a light peck on the lips. Sovereign Lord, you're so good. So good that she couldn't help but feel a little moved. But this man. Thinking of his powerful strength, Luo Qingtong suppressed the restless feeling in her heart. No matter how much she wanted something that was destined to be unattainable, she would never touch it. Humph. Yi Qianxian was caught off guard by her sneak attack again, and instantly looked at her with anger. If you have the ability, go find the main body. Let's see if she still dares to molest him like this. What was the point of bullying a dividing soul tier cultivator like him? Yi Qianxian raised his head and glared at Luo Qingtong. His puffy cheeks and slanted almond-shaped eyes were so adorable that one would melt in an instant. Okay. No one had ever called him that before. He just couldn't help being nice to this woman. It was only limited to this woman. No, I like you. Luo Qingtong teased him mischievously. I just like kissing you, she said and kissed the little fellow's lips again. In the end, she even licked it lightly. Instantly, little Ming Zun's face turned red. This woman, does she know that the main body can feel everything that she does to me? Kissing me is the same as kissing the main body. At the same time, outside the black field, Yi Qianxian had just flown into the air when his breathing became unstable. That woman. He covered his lips, and it was hard to tell whether he was embarrassed or angry. That woman. Yi Qianxian gritted his teeth. He really wanted to catch that woman and teach her a lesson every minute. She kept flirting with him, how hateful. Let's go to the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. He flew onto the spirit boat that had already been prepared and said coldly. At the same time, Luo Qingtong was also preparing to leave with little Ming Zun. Let's go and do something. I just hope that someone won't wait too long. Chapter 390. In the palace of Dongli, King Dongli was pacing back and forth in the hall. Check it. Check it for me. What the hell is going on? Why are the people of the Tianyu Empire here, but the Luo family is fine? King Dongli was shocked and angry. Since he came back from the square, he had been in a bad mood. Luo Qingtong was fine. He was as surprised and incredulous as Luo Xining. If she was fine, it meant that the Luo family was fine too. Even the Duke guarding Marquis was fine. Otherwise, how could she have the mind to take the entrance exam? Thinking that Luo Qingtong won the first place in the entrance exam and would enter the Tianyu branch school in the future, King Dongli's head was about to explode. Luo Qingtong's identity was very difficult to deal with. He couldn't touch or kill her. Even the royal family of the Tianyu Empire could only secretly attack the Luo family. Now that Luo Qingtong was admitted to the Tianyu branch school, the Luo family couldn't be touched. Thinking of this, he was agitated. Your Majesty, no matter what happened at that time, we have a deadly feud with the Luo family. I think it's better to join forces with the aristocratic families who didn't do anything last night and destroy the Luo family secretly. King Chenglu stood aside and said with a vicious face. He hated Luo Qingtong so much. He knew that his strength might be gone at any time. He couldn't stop the hatred in his heart, so he kept urging King Dongli to take action. Your Majesty, think about it. Anyone who asks about what happened last night will know what our royal family is planning. If the Luo family falls, Luo Qingtong won't be able to do anything. But... He looked at King Dongli, who stopped pacing. Now the Luo family hasn't fallen. If Luo Qingtong knows that we schemed against the Luo family last night, she won't let it go. At that time, she will join forces with the old bastard of the Chu family. Our royal family will be in danger. King Qinglu said patiently. Your Majesty, last night, so many aristocratic families cooperated with us and didn't make a move. They pretended that they didn't hear the movements in the Luo family. They must be afraid of Luo Qingtong's revenge. We can join forces with them and attack the Luo clan. We can kill them without anyone knowing. At that time, our royal family will have no worries, and your Majesty will be able to continue with your ambitions. You will no longer have to worry about the Luo family's restrictions. Your Majesty, please reconsider. He said resolutely and decisively, his expression extremely fierce. King Dongli didn't have time to speak. Paw, 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 a few crisp slaps resounded in the hall. Good, what a vicious scheme. Qinglu Wangye, I didn't expect you to be such a talent. I really missed you before. Luo Qingtong said as she slowly walked out from the shadows of the main hall. Her footsteps were light and slow, and there was a sweet smile on her face. The moment she appeared, it was as if hundreds of flowers had bloomed in the brightly lit hall, making it seem incomparably beautiful. Luo Qingtong. Seeing the girl appear in this side of the hall, King Qinglu was surprised at first, but then he smiled fiercely. There is a road to heaven, but you don't take it. There is no door to hell, but you rush in. Your Majesty, Luo Qingtong came to the palace alone, giving us a chance. Kill her here, and even if the Luo family doesn't fall, there is no need to fear. Speaking until here, he suddenly shouted, Men. Chapter 391. It was quiet all around. Qinglu Wangye's face froze. Help! Help! He shouted desperately, but there was no response. Luo Qingtong stood in place and looked at him with a faint smile. She was holding the smaller Yi Qianxian in her arms. The latter didn't even bother to look at Prince Qing. When the woman came in, she had already knocked down all the guards outside. Wherever he passed, there was not even a single person who could stand. She wanted to call for help, but where could she call for help? But if he hadn't followed Luo Qingtong here, he wouldn't have known that this woman's situation was so difficult. The royal family of such an inferior country dared to make things difficult for her. How low was the status of this woman's family? And listening to the other party's words, this woman seemed to be from this inferior country. Little Ming Zun frowned, and he couldn't believe what he had heard. This woman was actually from an inferior country, and she was from a family that could be bullied by anyone. Yi Qianxian thought and looked up at Luo Qingtong. He couldn't see that this woman was from such an inferior country. With the other party's strength and ability, not to mention an inferior country, even an ordinary empire couldn't cultivate such a talent, okay? That was why he had asked the Blackfield people to look for her in the empire and above. Later, he couldn't find her, so he expanded it to the superior countries. Who would have thought that this woman was actually from such a lowly country? No wonder he couldn't find her. But even so, Yi Qianxian couldn't allow others to bully her. Didn't you kill all these people? What are you keeping them for? He frowned and looked at Prince Qing, who rushed out of the door in disbelief. This kind of person dared to bully his woman, he was really looking for death. If his dividing soul division strength wasn't restricted, he would definitely kill him in minutes. Just let him feel what despair feels like. Luo Qingtong chuckled. Was this man concerned about her? Inexplicably hearing the anger in his voice, Luo Qingtong blinked and then quickly rejected it. He probably didn't want to see people like Prince Qing being arrogant in front of him. This man had always been high and mighty, how could he tolerate people like Prince Qing being presumptuous in front of him? Thinking of this, she suddenly leaned over and kissed him on the lips, squinted and smiled. Don't be angry, I'll take care of him. Prince Qing had already rushed to the door of the hall. When he saw the scene outside, he suddenly felt his scalp numb and instantly rushed to the top of his head. Outside the main hall, a group of people had collapsed. All the guards were lying on the ground, no one knew whether they were dead or alive. This was the most heavily guarded part of the palace, the emperor's bedroom. At this moment, it was completely open without any defenses. Qing Lu Wangye's heart chilled. He looked at the young girl standing in the hall. He didn't know how she could have such ability. There were so many guards outside, but they were all taken down in an instant without a sound. If Luo Qingtong wanted to kill them, how easy would it be? His throat kept rolling, looking at Luo Qingtong with eyes full of fear and despair. It was only at this moment that he realized how laughable his threats were. No wonder Luo Qingtong stood motionless in the same place. She didn't need to move at all to see their jokes. Those people of the Mang Tiger Guards. Were they also killed by Luo Qingtong? Chapter 392. No, that's impossible. No matter how capable Luo Qingtong was, it was impossible for her to do that. The guards of the Eastern Fence Royal Palace were no match for the Mang Tiger Guards. Even King Xiaowu, Fiji, was not someone that could be dealt with by ordinary people. King Xiaowu was a martial king. However, just as this thought popped up in his mind, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded. How is it, Prince Qing? Are you satisfied with what you see? It was the same when the Fei family was annihilated. Luo Qingtong's smile was faint, but the bloodthirst in it couldn't be ignored. Fei family. Prince Cheng's voice trembled, and he almost couldn't control his facial muscles. He looked at Luo Qingtong with fear, as if he was looking at a demon from hell stepping on blood and bones. The Fei family was annihilated. That Fei family. The Fei family that had been the pillar of the empire for generations. The Fei family of the Empress. Prince Cheng wanted to refute Luo Qingtong loudly and accuse her of lying, but his teeth were chattering, and he couldn't even make a complete sound. He suddenly thought of the battle at the Luo family last night. Clearly, they let King Xiaowu's men in and saw them charge into the Luo family with their own eyes. It was impossible for the latter to be fine. But the Luo family was fine. They thought that something happened at the Tianyu Empire, and King Xiaowu's men retreated at the last minute. But now, it seemed that they were annihilated. Annihilated by this girl in front of them. Not only that, but even the Fei family was annihilated. Prince Chang's face was filled with fear, and his face was distorted like a ferocious ghost's. He couldn't believe all this. How was this possible? How was it possible for Luo Qingtong to have such capabilities? However, all the disbelief in his eyes was shattered by Luo Qingtong's Rakshasa mask. You, Prince Chang's face was filled with shock. Evil physician Ghost Eye. Luo Qingtong was actually the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Before he could finish his words, Luo Qingtong had already slit his throat. Qing Lu Wangye clutched his throat and fell down with his eyes wide open. He died with his eyes wide open. Luo Qingtong had the evil Dr. Ghost Eyes. She actually had the evil Dr. Ghost Eyes. How was this possible? How could this be? Bang! When Prince Qing Lu's body fell, Prince Dongli also fell from his chair. He looked at Luo Qingtong in shock and panic, as if he had seen a ghost. Luo Qingtong. His voice was sharp. You're actually the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. No, that's impossible. King Dongli's voice trembled to the extreme. He was sprawled on the ground in an indescribably sorry state. How could this be? Luo Qingtong was actually the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. This was even more unbelievable than the news that Luo Qingtong had destroyed the Fei family. Who was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye? The most sought-after alchemist in the Black Field. The most important VIP in the Bloody Arena. No matter which identity it was, Prince Dongli couldn't afford to provoke them. He actually made a move against such a person and wanted to destroy the Luo family. Thinking like this, Prince Dongli's feet staggered. In an instant, the figure that had just climbed up fell flat on his back. Luo! Luo! He looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. He wanted to beg for mercy, but his voice trembled and he couldn't say a word. Luo Qingtong looked at him indifferently. That pair of clear and bloody eyes were full of coldness. Chapter 393. She took a step forward, pinched King Dongli's chin, and stuffed a black pill into his mouth. Dirty! Seeing Luo Qingtong's action, Yi Qianqian's face flashed with anger. He raised his hand and slapped the girl's hand away. Who allowed her to touch another man? Yi Qianming angrily glared at King Dongli, whose eyes were wide open in fear. This kind of scum is worthy of being touched by this woman. Yi Qianqian's heart burst with anger. I've only been touched by this woman a few times. While Yi Qianqian's heart was boiling with anger, King Dongli was already paralyzed on the ground. Luo Qingtong is the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. What kind of good thing can she give me? Thinking of how Luo Qingtong once poisoned an earth-level alchemist in the Blackfield sub-city, King of Dongli's face was covered with tears and snot. She didn't even lift a finger to poison an earth-level alchemist. Luo Qingtong. No, evil Dr. Ghost Eye. You are a magnanimous person, please spare me. I didn't know your identity. I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai and offended you. I beg you to give me a quick death. King Dongli was lying on the ground, crying with tears and snot. He was so scared that he even peed in his pants. He was really scared. One must know that Luo Qingtong is the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. He would never provoke the Luo clan. King Dongli's heart was filled with pain and regret. Grandfather Luo was loyal, patriotic, and upright. As long as he didn't deal with the Luo clan, the other party would always be his support. At that time, Luo Qingtong, the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, would also be his helper. But now, everything was ruined by him. Seeing him crying like this, Luo Qingtong, who was originally stunned by Yi Qianqian's sudden action, reacted and quickly wiped her fingers. TSK. So disgusting. Who would have thought that Dongli Wang, who looked vicious and vicious, was actually a coward? Seeing him cry like this, Yi Qianxian wondered if there was something dirty on his hands. No wonder Yi Qianxian felt dirty. Even she felt disgusted, okay. Hua Lily misunderstood the meaning of Yi Qianxian's words. Luo Qingtong wiped it several times before she could stop the disgusting feeling in her heart. Let's go. After throwing the handkerchief on the ground, Luo Qingtong carried little Ming Zun and prepared to leave. You haven't killed him yet. Yi Qianxian frowned. What was the point of keeping such trash? To cut the weeds, one must dig up the roots. Not to mention, the other party already knew her true identity. If she didn't get rid of him, there would be endless trouble in the future. It's all right. He has already eaten my 3-corpse brain worm pill. After 3 days of brain-devouring pain, he will completely become my puppet. Luo Qingtong said lightly. How could she let Dongli King die so easily? He owed the Luo clan too much. What's more, the matter in the Tianyu Empire hadn't been resolved yet. With Dongli Wang on the throne, it would be good for her to numb the Tianyu imperial family. Moreover, if there were any strange movements in the Tianyu Empire, she would be able to know as soon as possible. Last night, the Luo clan was almost exterminated. She absolutely couldn't let it happen again. This time, she happened to be near Windgaze City and had a spiritual flying ship at hand. What if she wasn't there one day? Wouldn't that be an opportunity for others to take advantage of? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed dangerously. There was only one who could be a thief for 1,000 days, but no one could guard against a thief for 1,000 days. Luo Qingtong would never allow any accidents to happen to the Luo clan. Dongli Wang was very suitable as a spy. Therefore, Luo Qingtong mercifully allowed him to live. Chapter 394. Ah! There was a shrill cry in the hole. When Luo Qingtong left, King Dongli still wanted to beg Luo Qingtong for mercy. But as soon as he moved, the 3-corpse brain worm pill took effect. In an instant, he held his head and rolled violently in the hole. The shrill cry was enough to give a timid person nightmares. The 3-corpse brain worm pill. After 3 days of brain-eating pain, King Dongli's brain would be swallowed up. The brain worm that broke out of the pill would live in his place and have all his thoughts. No one would be able to tell anything from the outside. No one would be able to find it unless they cut open King Dongli's brain. This was an insidious book that Luo Qingtong got when she visited a diabolism sect in the 24th century in her previous life. In her previous life, she used it many times to deal with those who came to kill her. But in the 24th century, science was advanced. Those people would fall for it at first, but later on, they would find it with a CT scan. Luo Qingtong was too lazy to use it anymore. This time, it was suitable for King Dongli. Luo Qingtong left the palace with Yi Qianxian in her arms. Not long after she left, the palace guards who were drugged by her woke up. Hearing King Dongli scream, they hurried over and were shocked when they saw the scene in the hole. Your Majesty! Could it be that King Qinglu wanted to usurp the throne but was killed by the king instead? Everyone hurriedly helped King Dongli up, but the latter still looked like he was in a lot of pain. Imperial physician. They sounded the alarm and called for the imperial physician. Instantly, the entire palace was in chaos. While the palace was in chaos, Luo Qingtong had quietly returned to the Luo family. Phew! Finally, it's done. King Dongli and Luo Xining had been dealt with. The Luo family had no more obstacles in Dongli country. As for the other aristocratic families, if they knew what was good for them, they would stay. If not, they would be eliminated. There was no need for Luo Qingtong to do these things herself. She heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she recalled how King Dongli had wept with tears and mucus all over his face. Instantly, she felt disgusted. He didn't know if there was anything unclean on his body. Luo Qingtong shuddered inexplicably at the thought of Dongli King wanting to hug her thigh and beg for mercy. She hurriedly asked people to prepare hot water for her to take a bath. She wanted to get rid of her bad luck. She put little Nether Venerable on the bed. His arms and legs were small, and he was only a little big. As soon as he was placed on the bed, he sank into the soft quilt and struggled for a while before he crawled out. Before he could catch his breath, a red robe flew towards him with a swish, covering him in it. Plop! Yi Qianxian fell into the quilt again. This time, he was surrounded by the girl's unique fragrance, which enveloped him completely. It was as if Luo Qingtong was right in front of him, exhaling her sweet and fragrant scent. Luo Qingtong. Yi Qianxian's face was as red as blood. He struggled to get out of Luo Qingtong's robe. At this moment, there was a splash. Behind the partition, there was a sound of water. Yi Qianren's figure froze in an instant. Luo Qingtong was taking a bath. This thought flashed through his mind. His gaze uncontrollably drifted towards the screen. Chapter 395. The Empire of Qin's Holy Capital, Holy Academy Headquarters. Yi Qianxian coldly looked at the Dean of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy. The Dean was nervous. He didn't know why this Supreme of Blackfield had suddenly come to the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy with such an unfriendly expression. This dark Supreme's strength was unfathomable. All the Sage Realm powerhouses of the true Spill continent knew about it. It was rumored that his strength had already surpassed the Sage Realm. As for what realm he had reached, no one knew. Even his own teacher, the Grand Dean, had a cautious expression when talking about him. The dean of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy naturally didn't dare to neglect him. What's more, in front of Yi Qianxian, he didn't have the slightest room to resist. His opponent's aura was too strong. He clearly didn't reveal the slightest bit of aura. But just his aura alone was enough to suppress him to the point where he couldn't speak. Your Excellency Dark Supreme, may I know why Your Excellency Dark Supreme has come to the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy? Teacher, he is not in the Holy Academy. Facing Yi Qianxian's terrifying aura, the Dean of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy found it extremely difficult to finish his words. He emphasized his teacher, hoping that the man would restrain his aura a little for the sake of the other party. Yi Qianxian coldly looked at him. After knowing that the aura of danger that Luo Qingtong had encountered came from the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy, his heart was filled with anger. Therefore, he didn't intend to give face to the Dean of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy. His woman couldn't be taught a lesson by others. I have recently obtained a wisp of aura. Yi Qianxian said. He raised his hand and released a wisp of aura that he had imprisoned. It was the aura of the holy pen that he had sensed through the 10-directional dragon ring. This aura has injured my people. How are you going to explain this to me? What? The Dean of the Empire of Qin's Holy Academy was stunned. He looked at the wisp of aura released by Yi Qianxian in disbelief. Then, his face darkened. Which bastard was it that dared to provoke the Supreme of the Dark Region? He even injured the people around him. How important was that person's identity to be able to make the Blackfield Supreme Master come to the Empire of Qin to inquire about it personally? Thinking of this, he instantly scolded the person who caused the trouble. Don't let him find out who it is. Your Excellency Ming Zun, I'm really sorry. This wisp of aura is indeed a treasure of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin. It has the aura of a holy pen. The Dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin looked terrible. There was really no way to push this blame away. The holy pen was the treasure of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. It carried the unique aura of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. This wisp of aura was indeed the aura of the holy brush. However, this aura was very weak. It was clearly released by a spiritual body. Thinking of this, the Dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin felt a headache coming on. There were many spiritual bodies of the Holy Pen. Almost all the mentors of the Saint Academy and the mentors of the other academies would be protected by a spiritual body of the Holy Pen every time they went out to do something. Now that Yi Qianxian had made it clear that he was going to make a punitive expedition against them, how could he find the owner of this spiritual body of aura for Yi Qianxian? Your Excellency Ming Zun, we really didn't know about this. This aura of the Saint Realm was released by a spiritual body of the Holy Pen. Yi Qianxian's voice interrupted him. I don't want to listen to your explanation. Yi Qianxian's voice was cold. The only thing I know is that this aura injured my people. The Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin must give me an explanation. Chapter 396. Your Excellency Ming Zun. The Dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was anxious. There are so many of them. We really can't confirm their identity. It was the enrollment season. The mentors of the various academies and the headquarters went out to recruit people in different countries. How could they be sure who hurt Ming Zun's woman among so many people? The Dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was cursing the troublemaker in his heart. Just as he was about to plead with Yi Qianxian with sweat all over his forehead, he suddenly felt the man in front of him stop breathing. Then a faint smell of blood suddenly spread out. Your Excellency Ming Zun. The Dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was shocked. Could it be that someone secretly attacked and hurt Ming Zun? However, just as he was about to look up, a strong and terrifying aura suddenly burst out from Yi Qianxian and suppressed him in place. Don't look up. Yi Qianxian's voice was cold and harsh. He covered his nose. Hidden under the dark gold mask, his handsome face that didn't seem like a mortal's was instantly dyed with a crimson red. That boiling red color followed the strange burning sensation on his body and instantly spread throughout his entire body. Blood dripped out. The dignified Ming Zun had a nosebleed. People would laugh their heads off if they knew about it. Yi Qianxian was ashamed and angry. He just wanted to grab the woman and throw her on the bed to punish her. He was about to explode. The aura emitted from his body was extremely terrifying. Crack, crack, crack. The dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was suppressed by his terrifying aura. His bones were cracking. He complained incessantly in his heart. He thought that Ming Zun was angry because of the Saint Academy's refusal. He immediately shouted, "Wait! Your Excellency Ming Zun, I didn't mean to hide it. The holy pen is not in the Saint Academy now. It was taken by my teacher. When my teacher comes back, I will investigate the whereabouts of the aura as soon as possible and give you an explanation, okay?" The dean of the Saint Academy of the Empire of Qin was really suppressed to tears. This supreme master of the Black Field was really powerful. Could it be that even his teacher was somewhat afraid of him? Could it be that the hidden experts of the four sacred dynasties didn't care about him establishing the Black Domain? Ming Zun's strength was really not on the same level as his. He was afraid that even his teacher's level was not as good as his teacher. Thinking of this, he wanted to cry but had no tears. At this moment, his teacher was also not in the sacred court. There was really no one who could save him. Okay. He had thought that Yi Qianxian would not give up. Ming Zi. After he finished speaking, he vanished from the sight of the headmaster of the Grand Qin Academy. This supreme of the dark region was so powerful, and had suppressed him to the point that he couldn't move at all, so how could he be in such a sorry state? But in fact, he was telling the truth. Yi Qianxian covered his nose all the way back to the spiritual boat. The aura around him made all the people in the Black Field bow their heads wherever he went. They couldn't and didn't dare to look up. Back to the Black Field. Yi Qianxian's voice was muffled. He felt like he was gnashing his teeth. Chapter 397. Don't let him find that woman. Otherwise, Yi Qianren gritted his teeth and let out a muffled groan. His aura became unstable again. That kind of fiery and scorching feeling was almost driving him crazy. At the same time, Dongli Nation, Windgaze City, Luo family. Little Ming Zun was looking at the beautiful scene reflected on the screen in front of him. The girl's figure was graceful and petite, and her figure was slender and well-proportioned. The places that should be concave were concave and the places that should be convex were convex. She had just started to develop, but it seemed that she had already begun to take shape. Yi Qianren looked at the young girl's fingers holding the handkerchief and carefully wiping from her neck to her feet. Every curve of her body was shown through the high-quality screen in front of him. His brain instantly exploded and he didn't even know when he started to have a nosebleed. Of course, what flowed out was the power of his soul. In an instant, Yi Qianxian's figure faded a lot. When Luo Qingtong came out of the shower, she saw him covering his nose and lying on the bed. His figure shrank again in an instant. She was shocked. What happened to you? Could it be that the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood was out of control and absorbed his soul power? Thinking of this, she quickly used her eye technique to check, but found that there was nothing strange in the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. There was no extra power. What was going on? Luo Qingtong didn't have time to think. She quickly fed Yi Qianxian a yin soul pill and carried him up. What's wrong with you? Why did you lose so much of your soul power? Could Yi Qianxian tell Luo Qingtong that he had a nosebleed because he peeked at her bathing? It's nothing. Don't make a fuss. He struggled with a red face. Let me down. This woman was always kissing and hugging him. It was fine before, but after what happened just now, when little Ming Zun got close to Luo Qingtong, he couldn't suppress the strange heat in his heart. Especially when Luo Qingtong just finished bathing, the fragrance of a young girl on her body became more pleasant. Yi Qianxian was in her arms. His whole body seemed to be surrounded by this fragrance. He was even more embarrassed and angry. "Hey, don't move." Luo Qingtong was originally going to pick him up to check. His movement instantly made Luo Qingtong lose her grip. Yi Qianxian's head was buried in Luo Qingtong's breasts. Touching the smooth and delicate skin, Yi Qianren recalled the scene where Luo Qingtong's hand brushed against it when she was bathing. Instantly, she felt like she was going to explode. The nosebleed that had just stopped flowed out again. "Oh! I got it!" Luo Qingtong lifted him up. Seeing that the soul power in his body was dissipating little by little, she quickly gave him a Yin soul pill. Then, she looked at him with an evil smile. "My lord. Just now, you peeked at me bathing." Although Luo Qingtong's words were a question, her tone was affirmative. She glanced at the compartment where she was bathing. Only then did she realize that the quality of the screen was very good. After it was soaked in water vapor, it became very transparent. Through the screen, she could vaguely see the scene behind the screen. In other words, the scene of her bathing just now was seen by the other party. Chapter 398. Then, Lord. Do I look good? She leaned close to little Ming Zun as she spoke, and gently blew into his ear. "Humph." Little Ming Zun blushed as he raised his head. He forced himself to be calm. "What's there to look at?" "Is that so?" Luo Qingtong smiled as she looked at him. The smile on her lips became sweeter. "Lord, you have a nosebleed again." She suddenly pointed at him. Upon hearing that, Yi Qianxian subconsciously covered his nose again. However, when he covered his nose, he realized that he didn't have a nosebleed at all. This woman. He looked at Luo Qingtong angrily. The latter had already collapsed on the bed with laughter. "Ha!" Luo Qingtong laughed happily. Her long hair was fluttering. She had just taken a bath, and there was still some water vapor on her hair. Following her movements, they scattered on the bed. Coupled with her face that was more delicate than a flower, it was truly an indescribable beauty. If the smiling Luo Qingtong was like an evil witch in hell who tempted the deities, then the laughing Luo Qingtong was like a fairy who fell into the mortal world. She was so beautiful that she didn't seem to be tainted by the mortal world. These two completely different temperaments were presented to the extreme on Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong. Little Ming Zun's face became redder. "That's enough. Don't. You're spoiled, right?" Luo Qingtong continued his words. She hugged the pillow and laughed even more happily. She didn't know that Yi Qianxian was so cute after he turned small. The cold and evil actions that the main body usually did had all turned into cuteness at this moment. Even this duplicitous and angry look was so adorable that it was going to explode. She really wanted to tease him every minute. "Then what about you peeking at me bathing?" "Humph. That's because I accidentally saw it. I wasn't peeping." Yi Qianxian tried his best to clear his name. He was a dignified underworld paragon, so how could he possibly peek at her bathing? "Humph. It was clearly because the quality of the screen was too good. That's because I saw it." Luo Qingtong hugged the pillow and tilted her head to look at him. Her delicate face was full of smiles. "I'm a pure and innocent young girl, but my lord has seen everything. How am I going to live in the future?" As she spoke, she let out a sigh and approached Yi Qianmin in a devilish and seductive manner. She held back her laughter and gently breathed into his ear, saying, "How about this, High Lord? How about giving yourself to him?" Before she could finish her sentence, Yi Qianqian's expression froze and he looked out the door. At the same time, Luo Qingtong seemed to have sensed something. She sat up from the bed and looked out the door. Master. A figure suddenly and silently appeared outside Luo Qingtong's room. Something happened to Luo Xinning. The war slave reported. Is that so? Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed. Luo Xinning, previously, Luo Qingtong had beaten her into a half-cripple in the arena during the recruitment assessment. Then, she threw her to the bandits that she had arranged to follow Luo Xinning's plan. However, Luo Qingtong had secretly sent the expert who had just reached the martial royal realm and the experts of the martial king realm from the evil valley to secretly watch them. The bottle of extremely poisonous poison that Luo Xinning had taken out was definitely not something that an ordinary person could take out. Even the people of the Tianyu Empire could not do it. Then the bottle of poison must have come from somewhere else. Luo Qingtong did not believe that the other party would ignore the fact that Luo Xinning was in trouble and her eyes were healed. Chapter 399. Ah! In the dilapidated kiln, a woman's cry of pain could be heard. That voice was abnormally miserable, as if he was being skinned alive and his bones were being torn apart. It made one's heart go numb. Luo Qingtong's expression was calm. She carried Yi Qianxian and waited outside. Beside her was the bandit leader, who was trying to please her. Miss, don't worry. Everything is done according to your instructions. What Luo Xinning is enjoying now is all arranged by herself. He rubbed his hands and said. Those customers are all people with special hobbies that I found from all over the world. I guarantee that Luo Xinning will suffer every time. Luo Qingtong looked at him and did not say anything. Luo Xinning would definitely suffer. What the bandit did was just icing on the cake. The elixir that she gave Luo Xinning made her feel like she was being skinned alive every time someone touched her, not to mention being ravaged by customers with special hobbies. However, this was all arranged by Luo Xinning herself. Luo Qingtong could only watch her enjoy it. After an unknown amount of time, the screams stopped and a wretched-looking man walked out with a satisfied look on his face. Sigh, this woman's voice is really interesting. Boss, I want her again next time. The wretched man said to the bandit leader. All right, get out of here. We'll talk about it next time. The bandit leader was afraid that the man would offend Luo Qingtong and quickly chased him away. In fact, even if he did not chase him away, the wretched man would not dare to look at Luo Qingtong. The aura around the bandit was too scary. Not to mention other things, just the powerful people around Luo Qingtong made the wretched man not dare to look at Luo Qingtong even if he was given 100 guts. Bring Luo Xinning out. Luo Qingtong sat in the courtyard, surrounded by the people from Evil Valley. Hearing this, the group of people entered the room and dragged Luo Xinning out. Bang! Luo Xinning was thrown to the ground. At this moment, she was in an extremely sorry state. Her entire body was bruised from head to toe, and there wasn't a single piece of unharmed flesh. In some places, traces of blood and lacerations could be seen. Her face had been scratched until it was garish, and there was blood everywhere. At that moment, those wounds and bruises were slowly healing. Her skin returned to its original appearance. However, every time it healed, it was like peeling off a layer of skin from Luo Xinning. Ah! Luo Qingtong. You killed me. Just kill me. She writhed on the ground like a lump of rotten meat. Although her face quickly regained its previous beauty, the process was extremely tragic, and it was a fate worse than death. Luo Xinning was really scared. Luo Qingtong's means were 1,000 times more ruthless than hers. Her methods were like child's play in front of Luo Qingtong. But how could this be? How did it become like this? She was supposed to be the winner. She was supposed to be the one standing here looking down at Luo Qingtong and showing off her glory. How did it become Luo Qingtong? She couldn't believe all of this. Ever since she woke up and was tortured, she couldn't accept it. It was that spiritual array caster. It must be that spiritual array caster who helped the Luo family and Luo Qingtong. If not, how could she lose? She had arranged everything and destroyed everything that Luo Qingtong could rely on. How could she lose? It was all because Luo Qingtong was too lucky. Chapter 400. Kill you. Luo Xining, don't be so naive. Luo Qingtong leaned on the big wooden chair with one hand supporting her forehead and the other holding little Ming Zun in her arms. She looked at Luo Xining indifferently. You poisoned Grandpa, colluded with the Dongli royal family to attack the Luo family, and destroyed my array when Fiji led the Mang Tiger Guards to attack us. I don't want to die even if you want to. Moreover, don't try to provoke me by injuring yourself to gain my confidence. Aren't you trying to provoke me not to kill you by saying all these? What I said just now is what you want, isn't it? Why, are you waiting for someone to save you? Unfortunately, you don't have any chance. Luo Qingtong smiled faintly. She saw the change of emotions in Luo Xining's eyes, from suspicion to shock, and then to disbelief. She smiled and clapped her hands. Bring her here. Impossible. Luo Xining looked at Luo Qingtong in disbelief. Luo Qingtong's words kept echoing in her mind. The array of the Luo family was set up by Luo Qingtong? Was she the spirit array master that he thought was protecting the Luo family? How is this possible? Luo Xining's voice was sharp. She couldn't help but scream. How could Luo Qingtong be the spiritual array master? And how did she know about Fiji? Fiji and the others would never expose their identities. That meant that Luo Qingtong killed them. She didn't appear at the entrance examination because of luck or accident, but because Fiji and the others were all dead. Luo Xining's face turned pale as she thought of this. This kind of deathly pale was like the ashes of death. All her pride and unwillingness were completely crushed by Luo Qingtong's words. Luo Qingtong was the spiritual array master, and this hit her even harder than when she was beaten up by her in the entrance examination. Previously, she could still be jealous of Luo Qingtong. She could still be resentful and unreconciled. But now, Luo Qingtong, other than crawling on the ground like a stray dog, what else could she do? The spiritual array master who was secretly protecting the Luo family was actually Luo Qingtong. Ahahaha. Luo Xining lay on the ground, laughing and crying. She had no hope left. She would not forget that it was the formation set up by Luo Qingtong that almost killed the two peak martial marquis experts beside her. It was also Luo Qingtong's array formation that stopped Fiji and the others. So all along, she had been the biggest joke. She treated Luo Qingtong as a joke, but the other party didn't put her in her eyes at all. She was extremely afraid of that spiritual array master, but she didn't expect that the other party was Luo Qingtong. However, Luo Xining still didn't know that Luo Qingtong was the evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Otherwise, she would be even more hopeless. Just as Luo Xining was feeling hopeless, a person was brought up and pushed to her side. Chapter 401. He is the one who came to save you. If I hadn't made the proper arrangements, you would have been saved by him. Luo Qingtong chuckled as she said this. The person who can take out the most poisonous liquid is indeed not an ordinary person. Even the person who was sent to save you is an expert at the peak of the martial royal realm. Luo Qingtong looked at the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm as she said this. To be honest, she was also very surprised when she received the report. The other party was an expert at the peak of the martial royal realm. If she hadn't made the arrangements and taken the initiative, the other party would have succeeded and saved Luo Xining. To think that such a powerful cultivator would be sent to save Luo Xinning. Luo Qingtong didn't believe that they were being cautious. That meant, the other party's strength was actually very ordinary on their side. It seemed that she had caught a big fish by accident. After Luo Qingtong knew that the poison in her eyes was the most poisonous liquid, she guessed that things were not simple. But she didn't expect that things were much more interesting than she thought. Tell me, who is your master? Luo Qingtong didn't look at Luo Xinning anymore. The latter was just a bait. She deliberately spared Luo Xinning's life so that she would tell the background of the person behind the scenes in extreme despair and fear. But unfortunately, Luo Xinning didn't know. Otherwise, after so many days of torture, if she had such a powerful backer, she would have told the truth. Fortunately, she was still of some use. Didn't she catch a fish? Luo Qingtong asked someone to remove the ball of cloth stuffed in the mouth of the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm. Bah! You don't deserve to know the name of my master. The expert at the peak of the martial royal realm spat as the ball of cloth in his mouth was removed. Miss Luo, I didn't expect your Luo family to be so capable. As he spoke, he glanced at the group of Evil Valley cultivators beside Luo Qingtong and said disdainfully, but that's all. I advise you to let Luo Xinning and me go if you know what's good for you. Then, send us out of here nicely. Otherwise. When he said this, he sneered and looked at Luo Qingtong with disdain. The destruction of the Luo clan is imminent. With master status, if it wasn't for the fact that he disdained to deal with the Luo family, he would have annihilated a small and weak marquis residence from an inferior country with a single breath. Not to mention his own master, if he wanted to make a move on the Luo family, wouldn't it be a matter of minutes? Thus, this peak martial monarch did not place Luo Qingtong in his eyes at all. So what if he was a prisoner? Could it be that Luo Qingtong really dared to do something to him? Thinking of this, the expression of the peak martial emperor became even more contemptuous. He wanted Luo Qingtong to send him away the same way she caught him. However, just as he was thinking this, he heard Luo Qingtong's light laughter. Her voice was as clear as a silver bell. But for some unknown reason, when it entered the ears of others, it was like a demonic bell that urged them to take their lives, and it carried a feeling that caused them to shudder with fear. It seems that I'm too easy to talk to, Luo Qingtong's voice slowly sounded after the laughter. So, anyone can threaten me with the destruction of the Luo clan. As she spoke, Luo Qingtong's face suddenly darkened. In the next second, she suddenly leaped up and appeared in front of the martial emperor at the peak of the martial emperor realm in an instant. Chapter 402. She broke the legs of the man at the peak of the martial royal realm with a kick. In the latter's incredulous gaze, she lifted her leg and smashed it down. Boom! The man at the peak of the martial royal realm was heavily hit in the shoulder by Luo Qingtong. With both legs broken, he was forced to kneel down by this huge force. Ah! He screamed miserably, no longer as arrogant as before. With both legs broken, if Luo Qingtong had not smashed him, he would have naturally collapsed to the ground. However, Luo Qingtong's heavy smashing caused his body to be pressed down by a huge force, and he knelt down directly. The broken bones in his legs were forcefully protruding out. The sharp bone fragments pierced into the tender flesh of his wounds. In an instant, the man at the peak of the martial royal realm was in so much pain that he almost fainted. Luo Qingtong, how dare you, why wouldn't I dare? Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. If your master had been paying attention to the Luo family, he would have taken action long ago after you were caught. Since he didn't, it means that you were sent here alone. Not to mention that I broke your legs, even if I killed you, no one would know that it was done by the Luo family. Who would believe that the Luo family could kill a man at the peak of the martial royal realm? You! The man at the peak of the martial royal realm was shocked and angry. Half of what he said just now was indeed to trick Luo Qingtong into letting him go. He didn't expect that she could see through it so easily. And she also guessed that he had no helpers here. Go to the Colosseum and catch some fighting beasts. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. She flicked a pill into the mouth of the man at the peak of the martial royal realm. After the incident with King Dongli, she was traumatized by the idea of touching these people. Now she would try her best not to touch them if she could. Luo Qingtong, what did you give me? After Luo Qingtong's pill entered his mouth, the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm instantly felt the aura in his body change. An indescribable smell was emitted. When he saw the ferocious beasts with green and red eyes staring at him and panting heavily, he suddenly realized that the aura he was exuding was the aura of the mother beast when it was in its infancy. And these fighting beasts that Luo Qingtong found were all male beasts. Luo Qingtong, what are you doing? Even though the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm had been trained to have a strong will, when he saw the ferocious beasts closing in on him, he was terrified to the extreme. These male beasts were all extremely ferocious beasts. Once they pounced, the peak martial royal realm expert shuddered at the thought of that terrifying scene. His legs were broken by Luo Qingtong. He fell to the ground and couldn't move. He couldn't even escape. Tell me the name of your master. Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. Otherwise, you can wait to enjoy the service of these ferocious beasts. As she spoke, she raised her hand, and the experts of the evil valley loosened the reins in their hands. In an instant, those ferocious beasts couldn't wait to rush forward, roaring wildly. No! Seeing those ferocious beasts pouncing on him, some of them even pushed him to the ground and pressed on him. The expert at the peak of the martial royal realm completely collapsed. He hurriedly shouted, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. My master is. Chapter 403. Oh, not bad, you actually managed to get my name, but the words that were about to come out of his mouth suddenly changed into another voice. The body of the peak martial royal realm suddenly twitched violently. As if he had touched a forbidden switch, he suddenly opened his mouth and howled. That voice was as mournful as a ghost's howl in the dark night. In the next second, his body quickly shriveled and shrunk. In an instant, there was only a skeleton left. Get out of the way. Seeing the change of the peak martial royal realm, Luo Qingtong's pupils suddenly shrank. She immediately ordered the experts of the evil valley who were leading the fighting beasts to get out of the way. Boom! As soon as she finished speaking, the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm suddenly jumped up. Roar! The violent fighting beast that was half the height of a person on top of him was instantly torn into pieces by him. Countless black auras were emitted from his body. In an instant, those fighting beasts that were close to him roared miserably. They were corroded by the black aura emitted by the peak martial royal realm expert. In an instant, they turned into ghastly white bones. The black aura was still spreading and expanding. Wherever it passed, it corroded everything. Those experts of the evil valley who were leading the fighting beasts couldn't escape in time. Although they had already retreated quickly when Luo Qingtong spoke, they were still one step too late. Several people who were closer to him were infected by the black aura that spread from the peak martial royal realm expert. Ah! The pain was bone-rotting and heart-eroding. The black aura corroded the skin as soon as it touched it. In an instant, ghastly white bones appeared. Poison. It was an extremely strong and overbearing poison. The bloody light in Luo Qingtong's eyes was piercingly cold. In an instant, she dashed out. Don't move. The poisoned experts of the evil valley were in so much pain that they wanted to roll on the ground. But when they heard Luo Qingtong's words, they instantly endured the pain and stood still. Some people, half of their bodies were almost corroded, but they were still holding on. Because they knew that if there was really one person who could save them, it was only Luo Qingtong. She had to believe in her master. Looking at the corpses of the fighting beasts on the ground, they felt a chill in their heart. Bang! Luo Qingtong's figure flashed in front of the peak martial royal realm expert in an instant. He didn't even look at the black aura surrounding his body. With a bang, he punched out. Master! Seeing Luo Qingtong's actions, the Evil Valley's people who had retreated to a safe area in time cried out anxiously. Yi Qianxian, on the other hand, was shoved into Luo Qingtong's arms the moment she made her move. Looking at the girl's fierce and austere actions, his round little face didn't have much of a change in expression. This woman will be fine. Someone as cunning as her wouldn't make a move if she wasn't certain. The other party was thinking too much if he wanted to take advantage of her. However, the other party's ability to control his mind remotely and detonate the poison in the body of the expert at the peak of the martial emperor realm, Yi Qianxian narrowed his eyes. Bang! Luo Qingtong's fist directly broke through the layer of black aura surrounding the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm and accurately hit his head. In an instant, the head of the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm exploded. Chapter 404. It was a pure black bead, which exuded a strong aura of life force. Needless to say, the power of flesh and blood of the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm was now in this pure black bead, which was also the source of the black aura around the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm. Bang! Luo Qingtong grabbed the bead and crushed it into powder. The next second, she waved her hand and scattered the powder to the experts of the Evil Valley, who had been eroded. Those people still listened to Luo Qingtong's words and stood still. Some of them had been completely corroded into bones and were motionless. They believed in Luo Qingtong. Swish! As Luo Qingtong waved her hand, the poison in the experts of the Evil Valley was instantly detoxified. Not only that, their bodies, which had been eroded before, also recovered quickly after being replenished by the power of flesh and blood. The power of flesh and blood of the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm was amazing. All of it had been condensed into a black bead, which was emitting poisonous fog without restraint. If Luo Qingtong hadn't seen through the trick and grabbed the bead, the area within dozens of miles around the body of the expert at the peak of the martial royal realm would have been filled with poisonous fog, and not a blade of grass would have been left alive. It would have been a land of death. The person behind the scenes had such a vicious heart and ruthless methods. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes slightly. When the bead was caught, he followed the trace of connection he saw with his eye technique. With a swoosh, he gathered the poisonous fog around the corpse of the peak martial royal realm expert that had not completely dissipated in his hand. Her 5 fingers moved slightly and changed the arrangement of the poison in an instant. Then she raised her hand and threw it out. Hiss! In a place far away from the eastern fence country, a beautiful woman in luxurious clothes, who looked very noble and graceful, suddenly took a step back. A circle of black was suddenly printed on her snow-white and tender fingers. And this trace of black was still expanding. Your Highness. Seeing the noble and graceful girl's action, the maidservants around were instantly shocked and hurriedly rushed up. Your Highness, how are you? What was going on? Who attacked you? The group of maidservants had sharp eyes. Almost in an instant, they surrounded the luxuriously dressed young girl and quickly became alert. These people were all martial emperors. They were powerful enough to establish an empire, but here, they were just a group of ordinary maidservants. Don't worry, no one attacked me. Feng Wuan waved his hand and dismissed them. Indeed, no one had ambushed her. It was just that when she was on her way out of the palace, she suddenly felt that someone had violated the prohibition she had set. Someone wanted to reveal her identity, so she diverted a bit of her attention to deal with it. Unexpectedly, he was injured by someone else instead. Looking at the greenish-black color that was spreading from her jade-white fingers, her expression turned slightly cold. The other party's poison techniques were very profound. He was actually able to counter the poison by following the connection in his mind. Not only that, he even modified the poison. Feng Yuan tried several times, but he still couldn't get rid of the trace of poison on his finger. Suddenly, his brows furrowed. Let's go back to the palace first. Also, send someone to check if there are any missing or dead people outside. Send me a list of names for me to check. She wanted to find out who was spying on her identity behind her back. Chapter 405. At the same time, Luo Xinning was lying in a corner of the dilapidated house in Dongli country. She could not believe what she had seen. When those fighting beasts were brought up, she had already been dragged to the side. That unforeseen event just now, she didn't suffer any injuries. Instead, she saw everything that happened. Luo Xinning was the happiest person when the poison in the peak martial royal realm exploded. Since she was already living a life worse than death, it would be great if she could drag Luo Qingtong down with her. But what did she see? Luo Xinning saw how Luo Qingtong had solved the disaster so easily. The poison that could corrode a martial king or martial royal realm expert into bone seemed to be useless in front of Luo Qingtong. She had solved it in an instant. Luo Xinning saw that the flesh and blood of the martial king realm experts from the evil valley had grown back. Their strength had increased. Luo Xinning felt as if all her strength had been sucked out of her. She collapsed on the ground. There was no hope. She finally knew why she had lost to Luo Qingtong. It turned out that Luo Qingtong had not shown any strength in front of her. She thought that she was strong, but she was nothing in front of Luo Qingtong. Even the person she had been relying on, the person who had poisoned Luo Qingtong, could not do anything to her. Luo Xinning's heart was filled with despair. She collapsed on the ground like a dead dog. She had lost all hope and vitality. No one could save her anymore. No one could save her from Luo Qingtong. Luo Xinning realized this clearly. She rolled her eyes and fainted in despair. Send someone to drag her in. Luo Qingtong's voice was calm. She did not look at Luo Xinning anymore. The person behind the scenes had been exposed. Luo Xinning was no longer of any use. Luo Qingtong did not want to dirty her hands for such a person. Let her enjoy herself here. She would kneel, cry, and be in despair. She had to finish what she had done. Yes. Young miss, don't worry. I will definitely watch over her and let her suffer the torture that she arranged herself. The bandit leader still had some lingering fear in his heart. That terrifying poisonous fog just now was really too terrifying. He could vaguely feel the strength of the people around Luo Qingtong. Seeing that they had almost been corroded into white bones, and that he had almost died along with them, he felt an indescribable fear in his heart. He was also in awe of Luo Qingtong. If it wasn't for this young Miss Luo, all of them might have died here. Moreover, it was an extremely miserable one. Thinking of this, he nodded and bowed to Luo Qingtong, promising that Luo Xinning would enjoy the best service. Yes. Luo Qingtong answered casually and walked to the corpse of the man at the peak of the martial royal realm who had shrunk into a skeleton. The person behind the scenes was very cautious. She had placed a gag order on her subordinates. Once her name was mentioned, she would be able to sense it. She would then control her mind and detonate the trap in the body. It was a pity that she did not manage to kill them all. Luo Qingtong kept all the things on the body of the man at the peak of the martial royal realm. She planned to find a time to go to the Black Field and find out who the person was. Let's go. She got up and was about to leave. Chapter 406. Why are you leaving? Yi Qianxian popped his head out of her arms. Little Ming Zun was only as big as a dot. He jumped in front of Luo Qingtong and held her hand that was retracting into her sleeve. Wipe the blood off your hand and apply medicine. He was furious. This woman didn't know how to cherish herself. Didn't she know how to apply medicine when her hand was injured? She even said that she wanted to go back as if nothing had happened. Even if she wanted to go back, she had to apply medicine before going back. Ah! Luo Qingtong looked at her right hand following his movement. She saw a few wounds that were neither deep nor shallow, and blood was oozing out. She was injured when she broke through the black fog around the man at the peak of the martial royal realm. The poison of the black fog didn't have much effect on her. Luo Qingtong had the pupil technique, so she easily broke through the weakest part of the black fog. However, the man was at the peak of the martial royal realm. Especially when the power of his flesh and blood exploded into the black fog, it had a lot of fierce aura. Luo Qingtong was a little injured when she broke his head and took out the bead. However, Luo Qingtong didn't care about such a small injury, but Yi Qianxian noticed it. It's okay. It's just a small injury. Luo Qingtong shook her hand and was about to get up. She looked up and saw Yi Qianxian's angry face. Her cheeks puffed up, and she squatted down again. Okay. She touched her forehead. I'll apply medicine. Don't be angry. This man probably thought that her hand was dirty because of the bleeding. How could a man be so obsessed with cleanliness? However, looking at Yi Qianren's condition, if she didn't wipe off the blood stains on her hands and apply some medicine, he would definitely not let her hug him. With his thin arms and legs, how long would it take for him to go back to the Luo family? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. She took out a bottle of medicine and poured some on her wounds. It washed the blood off the back of her hand and healed the wounds. Is it done? She showed her white and tender palm to Yi Qianxian. Come here. She smiled and stretched out her hand to Yi Qianxian. Let's go home. Humph, Yi Qianxian snorted, but there was a ripple in his heart. Go home. This sentence suddenly touched a part of his heart. He looked up at Luo Qingtong's beautiful face that was so close to his. For some reason, his heart softened. This woman had always been able to easily provoke his anger and eliminate it easily. I can't get hurt casually. Speaking of this, he felt a little awkward and then added, it's so dirty. As he spoke, he frowned and walked toward Luo Qingtong's hand with his short legs. He didn't know how cute and arrogant he looked. That expression of, I don't want to talk to you so soon, but since you're trying to please me, I'll forgive you reluctantly. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but laugh. That's not something I can control. Seeing that he was staring at her, Luo Qingtong held back her laughter and said, Okay, I'll try to be more careful in the future. As she spoke, she picked up little Ming Zun and kissed him on his little face. Then, she brought him back to the Luo family with a smile. As soon as they entered the door, a Luo family guard hurriedly ran out. Chapter 407. The old master is awake. The Iron Guard's words made Luo Qingtong very happy. Grandpa. Luo Qingtong carried Yi Qianxian and was about to rush to the old master's courtyard. However, she quickly reacted. Little Ming Zun must not be discovered by the old master. Otherwise, how would she explain to the old master? Her changes could be attributed to the inheritance of the immortal Sects ruins. But Yi Qianren. Could it be that she had to tell Grandfather Luo that she had accidentally imprisoned the soul fragment of the Supreme of Dark Region? It would be strange if the old master didn't have a heart attack. However, if she didn't bring Yi Qianxian with her, what if he ran away when she wasn't paying attention? Luo Qingtong wouldn't let her guard down just because Yi Qianxian was obedient, cute, and proud. If he seized the opportunity and ran away, she would be in trouble when his real body chased after her. Thinking about how she had forced that man left and right, Luo Qingtong felt a toothache. Just as she was in a dilemma, Little Pig, who had fainted due to overexertion, woke up in her sleeve. Ha! Master, am I very powerful? Little Pig jumped out of her sleeve. Before he could show off, he saw the little Yi Qianxian in Luo Qingtong's arms, and his mouth instantly opened wide. Snap! Because he was too shocked, his little hoof didn't hook onto Luo Qingtong's clothes and fell to the ground. He. Little Pig was so shocked that he didn't know how to speak. His 4 hooves kept moving on the ground. In the next second, it let out a howl and hopped around on the ground in circles. Why is he here? His pink and tender little hoof pointed straight at Yi Qianxian. Oh my God, oh my God. Why is this terrifying man here? And why is he so intimate with this woman? Oh my God. What happened while he was unconscious? Why did it see such a horrifying thing the moment it woke up? Luo Qingtong was speechless at Little Pig's series of crazy reactions. This fellow was becoming more and more unreliable. Was it that exaggerated? On the other hand, Yi Qianxian stared coldly at Little Pig, who was pointing its hoof at him. Do you have a problem with me being here? His voice was icy cold. Thinking of this pig jumping directly into Luo Qingtong's arms, if it weren't for her, she was afraid that it would have been lying in Luo Qingtong's arms. She suddenly felt a burst of anger. I don't dare. Little Pig was terrified by his stare. However, it quickly reacted. That's not right. Why was this man so small? It looked at Yi Qianxian, who was about the same size as it, in Luo Qingtong's arms and widened its eyes. This appearance, don't look at him. This is just a wisp of his soul, Luo Qingtong said and put little Ming Zun on the bed. It's good that you woke up. Help me look after him. I'm going to see Grandpa. I'll be back soon. While speaking, she suddenly remembered something and said to Little Pig, oh right, don't bully him. If this pig knew that this man was just a wisp of his soul and didn't have any attack power, who knows what it would do to him. Little Pig looked at her with a speechless expression. With this man, who was the one bullying who? A wisp of soul was connected to the main body. If it bullied this man, did it want to die? Chapter 408. A piercingly cold gaze suddenly landed on Little Pig. Little Pig felt goosebumps all over his body. It turned its head to take a look and saw Yi Qianren crawling out from the soft blanket. His soft and adorable appearance was extremely adorable. However, Little Pig, who was facing Yi Qianren's deep and cold eyes, didn't feel anything at all. Oh my God, this man's gaze is so scary. What did I do wrong? Why is he staring at me like this? You're not allowed to speak. Yi Qianxian's cold voice rang in Little Pig's ears after Lu Qingtong left. Little Pig felt his hair stand on end after being stared at by Yi Qianxian. Although he still didn't understand the situation, he quickly nodded his head. Seeing this, Yi Qianxian coldly snorted and looked away. Little Pig breathed a sigh of relief when the pressure was relieved. With a swoosh, it ran to the other side of the bed and finally settled down. Oh my God! That scared me to death. Little Pig patted his chest with his hoof. Why is this man so crazy? What do you mean I'm not allowed to speak? I just want to tell that woman that I can't bully him. What's wrong with that? Wait a minute. Little Pig suddenly thought of something and looked at Yi Qianxian with his mouth wide open. His jaw almost fell to the ground. That woman, don't tell me she doesn't know that there's a connection between the soul fragment and the main body. Is this what this man doesn't want me to say? The corners of Little Pig's eyes twitched violently when he recalled the scene when Lu Qingtong hugged Yi Qianxian when he rushed out. Oh my god. So scary. Forget it, this man won't do anything to harm her anyway. I'll just pretend I don't know. With this thought in mind, Little Pig instantly felt at ease. That's right, I'm not betraying my master. I'm helping my master, okay? Otherwise, with that woman's cruel, cunning, and lawless personality, who else could suppress her other than this man? Who else could be worthy of her and not be overshadowed by her radiance? It could only be this man. But before that, it still had something to ask. Hey, do you really like that woman? I said my master. It looked curiously at Yi Qianming, who had become small and delicate. The dignified underworld supremacy had turned into a kawaii pillow doll, yet this man could still remain calm. It seemed that he was somewhat sincere towards that woman. Otherwise, with his identity, he would probably rather detonate this strand of soul than allow himself to become like this. That's between this sovereign and that woman. It has nothing to do with you. Yi Qianxian looked at it coldly. Just watch your mouth. Yi Qianxian had his own pride. He liked that woman and was willing to throw away his face for her. He was also willing to disregard his identity as an underworld venerable for her. However, there was no need for others to know about this. Especially with that woman's character, she was already lawless enough. If he let her know that he liked her so much that he couldn't extricate himself and chased after her again and again, wouldn't she go to heaven? Yi Qianxian coldly snorted in his heart when he recalled how Luo Qingtong had forcefully suppressed him and teased him. F***ck, serves you right for not being able to get your wife. Little Pig was almost angered to death by Yi Qianxian's words. It originally wanted to tell Yi Qianxian that Luo Qingtong thought he had captured her to deal with her. But since this man didn't appreciate it, then forget it. I'll just wait patiently. Let's see when that woman will understand my intentions. Chapter 409. At the same time, Luo Qingtong stepped into Grandfather Luo's room. Grandfather. Luo Qingtong was delighted to see the hale and hearty old man lying on the bed. After so many days of sleep and recuperation, Grandfather Luo was in much better condition than before, be it in terms of mental or physical strength. His hair, which had suddenly turned white due to the dissipation of his cultivation, was slowly turning black under Luo Qingtong's meticulous care. All the medicines that Luo Qingtong gave old Master Luo were of the highest quality. They were all taken from the Tianyu Imperial Treasury. How could Grandfather Luo not be in good spirits? Qingtong. Grandfather Luo stood up happily when he heard Luo Qingtong's voice and saw his granddaughter standing outside. Before he could move, Luo Qingtong had already hurried to his side and supported him. Grandfather, you just woke up. Don't move around. Waking up from his coma meant that Grandpa Luo's body was in its best condition. Even so, he still had to be careful when it came to his physical strength and constitution. He'd be fine in a day or two. By then, Grandfather Luo would be able to train himself and return to his original strength. However, Luo Qingtong had a plan in mind. Old Master Luo had dispersed his cultivation and started cultivating again. She definitely wouldn't let him practice the same cultivation technique as before. If it was too low level, it would hinder Grandfather Luo's future development. Luo Qingtong had cultivated Yi Qianren's cultivation method and martial technique before, so she naturally knew how powerful a good cultivation method and martial technique was. However, the other party said that only he could cultivate Yi Qianren's cultivation method. Luo Qingtong didn't know the reason. She thought that Yi Qianxian meant that his cultivation method couldn't be taught to outsiders. It was one thing for her to cultivate it, but it wouldn't be appropriate for her to teach it to Grandfather Luo. Fortunately, there were cultivation methods in the Tianyu Imperial Treasury. Luo Qingtong picked a cultivation method that, as long as one was talented enough, could cultivate all the way to the martial emperor level. She gave it to Grandfather Luo for him to cultivate. Grandfather Luo also found out about the recent changes. He was indescribably shocked. He had not expected that so many things had happened during the period of time when he was unconscious and dispersing his cultivation. Fortunately, Qingtong had propped up the Luo clan. Fortunately, Qingtong had obtained the inheritance of the immortal Sects ruins and became extraordinary. Otherwise, wouldn't the Luo clan have already been destroyed? Grandfather Luo felt a wave of lingering fear at this thought. As for the Luo family's second branch, this group of ingrates, he hated them to the bone. Whenever he thought about the Luo clan's destruction, he wanted to wring their heads off. If the foundation left by his ancestors was destroyed in his hands, how could he face the ancestors of the Luo clan in the future? Unfilial son. You bastard. Grandpa Luo was so angry that he slammed his fist on the table beside his bed, causing a loud noise to ring out. If not for the fact that he didn't have any strength left, the entire table would have been smashed to pieces. Grandfather, don't be angry. They've learned their lesson. Luo Qingtong smiled. But the Tianyu imperial family. Grandfather Luo's heart was filled with hatred. Finally, he sighed. Qingtong, I'm useless. He couldn't protect his granddaughter. She had to run around for the clan at such a young age. Grandfather Luo's heart ached. Chapter 410. How is that possible? Grandfather Luo shook his head. Tianyu's royal family treated you so badly. Even if you didn't want to cancel the engagement, I would have done it myself. He couldn't let his beloved granddaughter suffer such grievances. That's right, grandfather. Grandpa, I'll handle this. Don't worry, I'll protect the Luo family. I won't let anyone bully the Luo clan. Luo Qingtong looked at Grandfather Luo and said word by word. Her evil eye's promise was as good as gold. If Grandfather Luo protected her, she would naturally protect him and the Luo clan. Not to mention, Tianyu's royal family was after her. Thinking of how Tianyu's royal family wouldn't cancel the engagement and didn't care about losing face, Luo Qingtong frowned. This was most likely Yu Wenma's fault. Otherwise, with Yu Wenxue and Tianyu's attitude towards her, this engagement would have been cancelled long ago. What was Yu Wenma thinking? Why was he so insistent on cancelling the engagement? And why did he insist on marrying her? It would have been fine if his love for the previous host was as deep as the sea. But according to Luo Qingtong's memories, Yu Wenma had never even looked at the previous host. Not only that, after being engaged for more than a decade, he hadn't even visited the previous host more than once. Every time he saw the previous host, his expression would be cold. Although his etiquette was very thorough, the arrogance and impatience in his eyes could be seen. The other party didn't like the original owner of the body, and was even against this engagement. But why didn't he want to cancel the engagement? Could it be that the previous host's mother was involved in something when she treated him? Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she thought about it. No matter what Yu Wenma was planning, if he wanted to marry her, it would depend on whether she was willing or not. Using power to oppress others. She would definitely return all of this to Tianyu's royal family. Along with what Yu Wenxue did. She would definitely call off this marriage. Not only would she cancel it, she would do it with a bang. Did Yu Wenma think he could force her? What a joke. Luo Qingtong sneered. After leaving Grandfather Luo's room, Luo Qingtong returned to her room. She saw Little Pig curled up pitifully in a corner of her bed, while Yi Qianxian sat on her bed. Seeing her walk in, two pairs of eyes immediately looked over. Master. When Little Pig saw that Luo Qingtong had returned, he impatiently stomped his hooves and was about to pounce on her. It didn't want to stay with this man anymore. However, Just as it raised its 4 hooves, a pair of eyes stared at it. In an instant, Little Pig, who was about to leap up, froze. F***ck. Was there any justice in this world? Who exactly was this woman's pet? Where was this man's face as the underworld venerable? Was it really okay to act cute like this? Little Pig was filled with grief and indignation as he watched Yi Qianxian walk past him to Luo Qingtong. He looked up at her and said, "Hug." Okay. Luo Qingtong looked at the tiny Yi Qianxian. Even if this man had a straight face, he was still so adorable that it made her want to explode. She bent down and picked him up, then habitually kissed him on the lips. Her clear eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. Traces of blood mist rippled in her eyes, like clouds and rosy clouds. It was indescribably beautiful. "Good boy," she said with a smile. "Oh my God." Little Pig was watching from the side. He immediately covered his eyes with his 2 hooves. No wonder this man didn't want me to tell her about the connection between the main body and the subsoul. This woman probably didn't know that she had already been taken advantage of, right? Chapter 411. Yi Qianxian sat on the seat of honor in the main hall, his eyes slightly downcast and deep. Luo Qi, he felt the warm touch on his lips. During this period of time, he often felt this warm and soft feeling on his lips. This feeling was both strange and familiar. Yi Qianxian knew that woman was kissing his divided soul again. Whenever that woman faced him, she would either run or escape. The only time she behaved was when he went to the Tianyu Empire to catch her, but she thought that he didn't know her identity. Now, facing his divided soul, she kissed and hugged him. Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian snorted coldly. At this moment, he finally believed that Luo Qingtong was right when she said that it would be better if he was weaker. She really wanted him to be weaker so that she could do whatever she wanted to him, didn't she? Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian was in a good mood and his previous depression disappeared. Woman with evil intentions but no guts. Thinking of how Luo Qingtong attacked him every time when he was suppressed and unable to move, Yi Qianxian's lips curled up. At this moment, a voice came from outside. "Master, the whereabouts of the Grand Dean of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin have been found." Suo Fei walked in. "Speak." Yi Qianxian sat up straight and looked at him with shining eyes. That divided soul and mind were imprisoned, and the connection between the 9 phoenix ring and the 10-sided dragon ring was also cut off. If Yi Qianxian wanted to find Luo Qingtong, he had to start with the Holy Pen. But the latter was now taken away by the Grand Dean of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin. Therefore, Yi Qianxian had to find her. Because only by finding out who the Holy Pen spirit who attacked Luo Qingtong came from, could he find the whereabouts of that woman. That woman didn't hesitate to imprison his soul fragment, which meant that his soul fragment must have found her true identity, making it impossible for her to escape. Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian was very happy. He would be able to find that woman soon. This knowledge put him in a good mood. In the land beyond the clouds, Suo Fei said with a frown. "Master, that place isn't peaceful at the moment. It is said that a treasure may have appeared there. Many top powerhouses of True Spill Continent are rushing towards that place. Your body." Suo Fei was worried. With master status, if he were to appear there, he would definitely attract suspicion and jealousy from all sides. The hidden danger in master's body hasn't disappeared, so he can't use his full strength. In addition, the injuries from using the blood essence searching technique last time had not completely healed. If they were to join forces and deliberately target him, Suo Fei looked at Yi Qianxian and said, "Master, why don't we wait for the Grand Dean of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin to come back and then use the Holy Pen to find the evil doctor?" "No need." Yi Qianxian raised his hand to stop Suo Fei from speaking. Knowing that he would soon find the whereabouts of that woman, he didn't want to wait a moment longer. What's more, who knew when the Grand Dean of the Holy Academy of the Empire of Qin would come back? Since he had found the whereabouts of that woman, he would personally go there. He had to find out the origin of that wisp of holy pen spirit. Thinking of this, Yi Qianxian flicked his sleeves and stood up. Tell Bei Qing and Feng Yu to prepare. I will go to the land beyond the clouds. Yes. Suo Fei didn't dare to say anything more. Once Master made a decision, he would never change it. But wasn't the evil doctor's influence on Master too great? If the evil doctor really didn't have Master in her heart, then what should he do? Chapter 412. At the same time, in the Luo family of Dongli country. After old Master Luo woke up, Luo Qingtong's heart was finally at ease. Now that grandfather Luo was safe, she could leave the Luo family and do her own thing. The things that she had taken from that expert at the peak of the martial royal realm were still in her useless ring. She wouldn't give up until she found out who the mastermind was. Luo Qingtong had a feeling that everything that happened to the Luo family and the original host had something to do with the treachery and snobbishness of the Tianyu royal family. But it was more likely to be because of the mastermind. Otherwise, the Tianyu royal family would have plenty of opportunities to attack the Luo family and the original host. The original host's mother had disappeared a long time ago. If the Tianyu royal family was so dissatisfied with the marriage that they wanted to kill the original host, they wouldn't have waited until the original host was so old. Obviously, there was an outside force involved. This made the Tianyu royal family extremely dissatisfied with the original host. Thinking of what Luo Xianning said when she attacked the original host, "You offended someone you shouldn't offend," Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. She wanted to see how much of a threat the other party was. She wouldn't let go of anyone who harmed her. After informing grandfather Luo, Luo Qingtong left with Little Pig and Yi Qianxian. She didn't bring anyone from the Evil Valley with her. They were all left at the Luo family to guard against anyone who might attack them. Luo Qingtong felt that the Tianyu royal family couldn't even take care of themselves after the Fei family was destroyed. They wouldn't have time to make trouble for the Luo family. But there was always a chance. The Luo family and grandfather Luo were the most important and warm harbors for Luo Qingtong in both of her lives. Only in the Luo family, in front of old Master Luo, would Luo Qingtong restrain her bloodthirsty coldness and the wanton coldness in her bones and reveal the lively emotions of an ordinary girl. At this moment, she wasn't Evil Eye Luo Qi, but an ordinary girl, Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong liked this feeling very much. In her previous life, she had never lived such an ordinary life. He had never enjoyed such familial love between a grandfather and his grandson. She cherished all of this and would never allow anyone to destroy it. Whoever dares to touch the Luo family will die. Whoosh! Outside the Blackfield sub-city of Dongli country, beside the Yellow Spring Road. Luo Qingtong landed under the watchful eyes of the crowd, and raised his hand to keep the Earth-grade flying ship. Hiss! Seeing Luo Qingtong's actions, everyone who was waiting to cross the Yellow Springs path gasped. Earth-grade flying ship, Sumera spatial spirit artifact. These two things, no matter which one it was, were not something that an ordinary person could possess. Just where did this purple-clothed girl come from? Everyone looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. They didn't know which sacred dynasty family she came from to gain experience. Luo Qingtong swaggered into the Blackfield sub-city of Dongli State. She was wearing a purple robe, and her face had already been changed by old monster Yin Chi's Cheong Chi 100 changes, so no one could recognize her. Old monster Yin Chi's Cheong Chi 100 changes was very magical. It could completely change a person's aura from the inside out, which was much more advanced than ordinary disguise techniques. Ordinary disguise techniques could at most change one's bones and appearance. If one encountered a powerful expert, they would easily be seen through. But Cheong Chi 100 changes didn't have such concerns. Even a martial emperor expert who could easily see through a person's aura with the union of heaven and man could forget about probing Luo Qingtong's real aura. If not for this, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have come to the Black Field. After all, Yi Qianxian was still looking for her everywhere. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.